Hello everyone. Welcome back. In this session we are going to learn about optional chaining and Nullish coalescing. First, let's understand optional chaining. Optional chaining is a feature that allows you to safely access deeply nested properties of an object without having to check if each reference in the chain is valid. Let's look into the demo. So to create demo, I am going to create a folder called Optional Chaining and Nullish Coalescing. And within that I am going to create a file called 01optionalchaining.js. Now let's write the code. Now I am going to write code to demonstrate the use of optional chaining, a feature introduced in JavaScript 2020, which allows for safer and more concise property access on objects that might be null or undefined. The code begins by defining an object user with properties name and address. The address property itself is an object containing a city property with the value Wonderland. Next, the code shows how to access the city property of the address object without using optional chaining. This is done by chaining multiple logical AND operators to ensure that each preceding property exists before attempting to access the next one. If any of the properties in the chain are null or undefined, the expression short-circuits and returns undefined. In this case, since all properties exist, the variable city is assigned the value Wonderland. Following this, the code demonstrates the use of optional chaining to achieve the same result more succinctly. The expression user, address, city safely navigates through the user and address objects, returning undefined if any part of the chain is null or undefined. Here, the variable city WOC is also assigned the value Wonderland. The code then introduces another object user2, which has a name property but no address property. When attempting to access the city property of the address object using optional chaining, user2.address.city, the expression evaluates to undefined because user2.address is undefined. This demonstrates how optional chaining can prevent runtime errors and provide a safe way to access nested properties. The variable city2 is thus assigned the value undefined. And at last, I am doing the console log to see the output. And here when we ran it we got this output. Now let's proceed further and look into the demo of Nullish Coalescing. So let's create a file called 02nullishcoalescing.js file. Now let's write the code. I am going to write code that demonstrates the use of the Nullish coalescing operator, which is a feature introduced in JavaScript 2020. This operator allows developers to provide a default value when dealing with null or undefined values without mistakenly treating other falsy values, like 0 or an empty string, as null or undefined. The first line of the code assigns the variable foo the result of the expression null, default string. Since null is one of the Nullish values, the operator returns the right-hand side value, which is default string. Therefore, foo is assigned the value default string. Similarly, the second line assigns the variable bar the result of the expression undefined, default string. As undefined is also a Nullish value, the operator returns the right-hand side value, default string. Thus, bar is assigned the value default string. The third line assigns the variable baz the result of the expression 0, default string. In this case, 0 is not a Nullish value, it is a falsy value but not null or undefined, so the operator returns the left-hand side value, which is 0. Therefore, baz is assigned the value 0. Finally, the fourth line assigns the variable cux the result of the expression, default string. Here, an empty string is also not a Nullish value, so the operator returns the left-hand side value, which is. Consequently, cux is assigned the value with empty string that you seeing a blank space in the last. Overall, the Nullish coalescing operator provides a way to handle null and undefined values specifically without affecting other falsy values, making it a useful tool for setting default values in JavaScript. Now let's proceed further and see the demo how to use both optional chaining and Nullish coalescing together. So let's create a file called 03ocwnc.js. Now let's write the code. In the code I am going to show you how to combine the use of optional chaining and the Nullish coalescing operator to safely access nested object properties and provide default values when necessary. The code begins by defining an object user with properties name and address. The address property is an object containing a city property with the value Wonderland. The variable city is then assigned the result of the expression user address city unknown city. Here, optional chaining is used to safely access the city property of the address object. If any part of the chain, user or user.address, is null or undefined, the expression short circuits and returns undefined. The Nullish Coalescing operator then provides a default value of unknown city if the result of the optional chaining is null or undefined. In this case, since all properties exist, city is assigned the value Wonderland. Next, the code defines another object user2, which has a name property but no address property. The variable city2 is assigned the result of the expression user2 address city unknown city. Again, optional chaining is used to safely access the city property of the address object. Since user2.address is undefined, the optional chaining expression evaluates to undefined. The Nullish Coalescing operator then provides the default value unknown city. Therefore, city2 is assigned the value unknown city. Finally, the code logs the values of city and city2 to the console. The first console.logged city outputs Wonderland, and the second console.logged city2 outputs unknown city. This demonstrates how optional chaining and the Nullish Coalescing operator can be used together to safely access nested properties and provide fallback values when necessary. So guys, we are done with this session, and the next session is the last session of the refresher course, and in that session I will use all the syntax which we have learned in this modern JavaScript refresher course in a small project. So on this note, I am stopping over here. See you in the next session.